Don't look at that. I'll get it. Hi. Today we are going to read Daniel 3. I'm not going to read the whole chapter because it's quite long. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Disclaimer, I don't have a degree in theology or anything like that. I just love my Bible and I want to be in it more. And so what better way than to take videos of me reading it? Okay, so Daniel 3. There's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They all work for King Nebuchadnezzar. I believe it says verse 12, but there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon. So I think that means that they work for the king. I'm telling you, I do not know much. So if you know more than me, good on you. But yes, King Nebuchadnezzar made a image of gold that he wanted everybody to worship. And he said, if you're not going to worship it, if you don't worship it, then I'm going to throw you into the furnace. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not. So that is where we are. Verse 13, Daniel 3. I'm in NIV. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these three men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. Keep that in mind. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." So we'll come back to this passage, but let's keep reading. Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than normal. 7 is a very significant number in scripture. And commanded, I believe it's like the perfect number, but I'm not sure. Somebody fact check me. And it commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing the robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leapt to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, your majesty." He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out here." Anyway, so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair on their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. I bet they were sweaty, though, don't you think? I think they'd be sweaty. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants." They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Oh my goodness, there are so many different parts here. Okay, first we're going to go to 16, verse 16. "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter." I think there are so many instances in like this world where we try to defend ourselves before people, but we just don't need to, because God, you know? That's all I have to say about that one. Okay, verse 17. "If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, we will not serve your gods." So my commentary at the bottom says, but even if he does not, the faithful men knew that God could deliver them, yet they were also aware that God could have chosen not to do so. Faith in God may not translate into victory in every circumstance. To these men, the outcome was irrelevant, for what was at stake was not God's ability or their own lives, but their faith and obedience to serve him regardless of the cost. Okay, faith in God may not translate into victory in every circumstance. I just walked through this very, very hard season, and I had faith that what I thought was going to happen was going to happen, and there was no doubt in my mind that it wasn't going to happen, and it didn't, and I was so confused. But it wasn't God's will, and I think that's really important for us to be praying while we ask God for things, is for his will to be done above all else, because his will is what's best for us. I had a very hard time like learning that God's will was like his best for me, so I kind of like I started praying by like, God, I just pray for your best for my life. But then that turned into me saying, God, I want your will to be done, because I learned that God's best for my life is God's will for my life. And so that just like comforted me to like know that those were the same thing, they weren't separate. Okay. So the 4 men walking in the fire, it says the 4th man walking with the 3 friends in the furnace may have been an angel. Many believe that it was the appearance of the pre-incarnate Christ. Who knows? Who knows? I wonder if he said anything to them in the fire. Let's see. Okay, I just love how the king promoted them after, because of like what God had done, but also like their faith was what like helped them, you know? I don't know. So they should have died before they even entered the furnace because of the soldiers that were on the outside, and they went into the blazing furnace, and not one hair was singed on their head. The Bible is filled with just so many like insane stories that I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. And then I put just on the side here, God was showing the king who he was by using the men. And just think, if like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego responded in fear, not in faith, then like the king wouldn't have like seen like a part of God that day. Who knows if the king's like, I actually think that the king's relationship with God changed after that, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But it's just crazy how like when we act in faith, God like uses that way more than just what the little part of what we can see. So that is all for my little Daniel 3 reading. Thanks for staying with me, and I hope you have a good day.